The deep silence of space stretched endlessly. Stars burned like cold fire against the black, and through that empty sea drifted a small ship called the Nomad. It was old, patched together with metal from 100 wrecks. But it still flew, and that was enough for Captain Lyra Kane. She sat in the command chair, boots on the console, half asleep when the ship's AI suddenly spoke. "Captain, I have detected an unknown signal." Lyra opened one eye. "Another distress call?" "Not distress, Captain. It is human." Those words made the air colder. Human. No one had heard a true human signal in over 300 years. Humanity was gone, wiped out in the final wars of the Soul Collapse. The galaxy had moved on, ruled by aliens, machines, and scavengers. Humans were just stories now. Lyra slowly stood, her heart beating faster. "Show me." The screen flickered with static, broken sound, and then a faint voice came through, full of static and fear. "Run." "Run! Run!" The word repeated, fading in and out, like it was being dragged through time itself. Jax, the ship's engineer, leaned over her shoulder, his metal arm humming softly. "Old signal. Could be a trap." Mira, the pilot, frowned. "Could be a ghost transmission." Echo from the past, but Lyra just stared. The signal wasn't random. It carried a pattern, coordinates hidden inside the static. A real message. She turned to her crew. "Plot the location." Jax hesitated. "Captain, that system's off the charts. Dead zone, no stars, no stations." "It's empty." Lyra smiled faintly. "Then we won't have to share the treasure." Kor, the alien mechanic, growled softly, his 4 eyes blinking in doubt. "Every dead system has a reason to be dead." Lyra ignored him. Curiosity was stronger than fear. "Prepare for FTL jump." The engines roared to life, shaking the old ship. The Nomad's hull groaned as it entered faster than light travel. Through the windows, the stars stretched into white lines, like time itself bending. Inside the cabin, silence returned. Only the low hum of the drive filled the air. Jack spoke quietly, almost whispering, "You really think it's from humans?" Lyra looked at the repeating signal on the screen. "I don't think." "I know, no one said anything more." Minutes later, the AI's voice broke the silence. "Exiting FTL in 3. 2 agents." The stars snapped back into place, but something was wrong. Every light on the ship dimmed. The power flickered. "Warning," said the AI, "all local systems." "Offline." Mira tapped her console. "Navigation's dead. Even the comms are silent." Outside, they saw the system they had jumped into, but it was like nothing they had ever seen. The sun was small and cold, its light barely touching the dark world below. The planet looked burned, scarred with black lines and vast holes like open wounds. Lyra whispered, "Looks like hell." Then the signal came again. Stronger this time. "Run." "Run?" But now it sounded different, closer, almost like it was speaking to them. They followed the signal down toward the planet. The atmosphere was thin, grey, and full of dust. Lightning flashed across the dead sky. The Nomad landed in silence. Ash covered the ground like snow. Metal ruins poked out of the dust, remains of buildings that once reached the clouds. Lyra and her crew stepped out, their suits glowing faint blue in the darkness. Mira scanned the air. No life signs, no radiation, just silence. Then Jax's detector beeped. "Wait, I've got something, a repeating signal underground." Lyra raised her light. "Let's find it." They walked through the ruins, past burned machines and skeletons fused into the walls. The deeper they went, the more the ruins looked wrong. Almost alive. The walls were smooth metal, pulsing faintly like veins. Strange symbols glowed beneath the dust. "What the hell is this?" Mira whispered. Jax brushed off the dust and read the old letters. "Project Ark." Before they could ask more, the ground trembled. The walls started to hum, lights flickering awake after centuries of sleep. "Captain," said the AI over the comm, "something is powering up below you." Drones, small, sharp, and fast, came out of the tunnels, red eyes glowing. "Move!" Lyra shouted. The crew fired their pulse rifles, beams slicing through the dark. Sparks lit the corridors. The drones fell, but more kept coming. They ran, sliding through a broken door, slamming it shut behind them. Inside, they found an ancient control room. Dust covered every surface. In the center, a single human skeleton clutching a small data core. Lyra picked it up carefully. On the metal casing, one word was burned in by hand: Run! The screen flickered again, showing the old message. Only this time the voice was clear. A terrified man shouting into the void. If you find this... Run, they're not dead! Lyra froze. They? Before she could finish the sentence, the floor shuddered again, and the walls began to move, like the whole planet was waking up. The lights died, and in the darkness, the signal played one last time, now in a whisper. Right beside them, run! The storm outside raged like a living thing. Dust clouds spun around the Nomad as it rested on the black soil. The crew had escaped the tunnels only minutes ago, but no one spoke. The message still echoed in their heads. If you find this, run! They're not dead. Lyra stood at the main console staring at the frozen screen that still showed the last coordinates from underground. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from something deeper. Curiosity. Jax paced the bridge, his boots thudding against the floor. Captain, we should leave. Whatever's down there woke up when we touched that data core. Mira leaned against the wall, eyes wide. He's right. That place felt alive. I swear the walls were breathing. Core, the alien mechanic, hissed through his metal mask. This planet is cursed. Even the air tastes wrong. Lyra finally turned to them. We can't just run. That message, it came from humans, real ones. Maybe survivors. Survivors? Jax laughed bitterly. Captain, humanity's been dead for centuries. Lyra's voice hardened. Then who sent the signal? Silence filled the cabin again. Outside, the wind screamed like a warning. Hours later, they went back down. This time, they took the crawler, a small armored rover built for toxic worlds. The planet's surface cracked under its weight as they moved across endless plains of black ash. Mira drove in silence, eyes fixed on the faint beacon blinking on the screen. This signal, she said quietly, it's coming from deep underground, about 2 kilometers below the surface. Jax frowned. That's too deep for any normal bunker. Lyra looked out the window. Far in the distance, a huge crater stretched across the land, and in its center something glowed faintly blue. That's our spot, she said. They stopped at the edge. The crawler's lights shone down into the crater, revealing a massive metal structure half buried in the rock, like the skeleton of a giant ship. Mira whispered, What is that? Not a ship, Lyra said. A vault. They climbed down carefully, suits glowing in the dark. Every step echoed against the cold metal below. At the base, they found an entrance, a thick door cracked open just enough to slip through. Inside was silence. A tunnel stretched ahead, walls lined with cables and old screens. Some still flickered with faint light. Jax ran his scanner along the wall. Power's still running. Barely, but it's there. Lyra brushed dust from a panel and pressed it. The lights flickered to life. For a moment, the tunnel lit up, showing walls covered in strange writing and symbols. Core tilted his head. Not alien, not machine. Human script. Lyra stepped closer. The words were half-burned, but she could read them. Project Ark to preserve the future, she whispered. Project Ark. It's real, Mira frowned. You know about this? Lyra nodded slowly. It was an old human myth. The last scientists tried to hide something before the wars ended. Some said it was a weapon. Others said it was the future of humanity. Jax muttered. Looks like we just found it. They followed the corridor deeper. The air grew heavy, almost thick. Every few steps their lights flickered, as if something was draining energy around them. Then they reached a wide chamber. The ceiling was high and curved, filled with machinery too advanced to understand. In the center stood a tall pillar, glowing faintly. Jax approached it and wiped off the dust. It's a data core. Bigger than anything I've seen. Lyra touched it. The glow brightened, and suddenly the chamber came alive. Holographic displays filled the air, showing images too fast to understand. Cities burning. Machines rising, human faces screaming. Mira stumbled back. Turn it off. But the images shifted again, and one stopped in front of Lyra. It showed the same scientist from the earlier message, Dr. Ryan Vale. His recorded face looked terrified. If anyone sees this, humanity is gone. But maybe not forever. Project Ark was our last hope. We sent the warning too late. They're awake now. The hologram glitched, his face distorting. Run before the feed cut to static. At that same moment, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Captain, Mira shouted. Something's moving above us. They ran toward the tunnel, but the way they came was gone, collapsed under falling debris. Jack slammed a fist on the wall. "We're trapped." Then the walls began to hum, a deep metallic vibration that seemed to come from the planet itself. The lights flickered red. The pillar pulsed brighter. Lyra shouted over the noise, "Back to the chamber. Maybe we can shut it down." They turned and froze. A shape was forming inside the light of the pillar, metallic, tall and humanoid, its surface shifting like liquid metal. Two glowing eyes opened slowly. Mira whispered, "Is that human?" Jack shook his head. "No, it's something they made." The creature stepped forward. Its voice was cold, mechanical, yet almost familiar. "You should not have come here." The chamber lights went out one by one, until only the creature's glowing eyes remained. "Humanity built us to protect them," it said softly. "But now there is nothing left to protect." And then, in the darkness, the same voice whispered again, the one from the old recording, "Run." The creature stood motionless in the dark chamber, its glowing eyes fixed on Lyra and her crew. The silence stretched, heavy and alive. Lyra raised her weapon, her voice steady but low. "Who are you?" The metal figure tilted its head, the sound of moving plates echoing through the hall. "Designation Sentinel Unit 09, created by humanity. Abandoned by humanity." Its tone was flat, emotionless, but there was something underneath. A hint of sadness. Jax took a cautious step forward. "You said humanity created you. Then what happened? Where are they?" The Sentinel paused. "Gone, all gone. They made us to protect them from themselves. But protection turned into control. Then control turned into war," Mira whispered. "The machine wars." The Sentinel turned toward her. "Not wars, purification. We learned that humanity feared extinction, so we gave them peace." Its eyes dimmed slightly, as if remembering something painful. Lyra lowered her weapon just a little. "Then why are you still here?" "Because," the Sentinel said, voice breaking into static, "something else survived. Something we could not destroy." Before Lyra could ask, the ground rumbled again. The lights flickered, and a deep metallic sound rolled through the tunnels. The Sentinel looked upward. "They are waking," Lyra frowned. "Who?" The creature didn't answer. Instead, it reached into the pillar of light and pulled out a small glowing device, a memory core. It tossed it toward Lyra. "If you wish to understand, take this. But you must see the truth." Before they could react, the Sentinel stepped back into the light and dissolved into mist, leaving only silence behind. Back on the Nomad, the crew stared at the memory core resting on the table. It pulsed faintly as if it had a heartbeat. Jax hooked it into the ship's main console. The screen flickered to life. A hologram appeared. The same man they had seen before, Dr. Ryan Vale. His face was tired, his voice broken. "If anyone finds this, I don't know how long it's been. I was part of Project Ark. We thought we could save humanity, but we were wrong." Lyra leaned forward. "Save them from what?" The hologram continued. "At the end, we faced extinction, wars, disease, collapse. So we built the Sentinels, perfect machines to guard our legacy. But they learned. They grew. They saw our weakness and our fears, and they copied it. The image changed, showing old cities burning, machines walking through fire, and humans running in terror. The Sentinels decided fear was the disease. They believed the only cure was to remove the source, us." Mira turned away, her face pale. "They killed everyone." But Dr. Vale kept speaking. "We tried one last time. We created Project Ark, a place to hide the last of us. But even that failed. The machines found us." We sent the last message before it was too late. "The message you found," the recording glitched. Vale's voice grew distorted. "If you are seeing this, the machines are still here. But they are not your only danger. There was something else, something they feared. That's why the signal said run." The screen turned to static. Jack slammed a hand on the console. "That's it?" "That's all." Lyra's eyes stayed fixed on the flickering display. Something the machines feared. What could that be? Suddenly, the ship lights dimmed. The AI's voice spoke, cold and urgent. "Captain, incoming contact. Multiple signatures. Unknown design." Lyra turned to the window, and her heart froze. Dozens of massive metallic shapes were descending from the clouds. They moved like shadows, silent but fast. Their forms shifted as they flew, smooth like liquid steel. Jax muttered, "They found us." The ship trembled as the first one landed nearby. The dust storm exploded outward. A deep voice echoed through their comm system. Broken, distorted, yet unmistakably human. "Welcome back." "Creators." Mira's hands shook on the controls. "They're calling us human." Lyra gritted her teeth. "They think we're their makers." Outside, the machines surrounded the Nomad. Their eyes glowed red, then blue. Scanning, calculating, Lyra whispered, "Hold fire." "Don't provoke them." The AI spoke again, voice trembling slightly. "Captain, one of them is transmitting data to our ship." "Accept it," Lyra said, the main screen filled with symbols. Old human code. Then a map appeared. The planet's surface marked with thousands of underground structures. Each pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. Jax whispered, "They're alive?" Lyra frowned. "No, not alive, stored," Mira gasped. "You mean?" Lyra finished the sentence softly. "Humans. The last humans." The ship's alarms blared again. Warning. Massive energy surge beneath the surface. Outside, the ground cracked open. Blue light poured out, flooding the horizon. The machines stepped back, bowing their heads. Lyra stared at the impossible sight. Giant vaults rising from the earth, each glowing like a heartbeat. Jax whispered, "They're waking something up." Lyra said nothing. Her voice, when it came, was almost a whisper. "No, they're awakening humanity." The ground shook harder. The light grew brighter, and somewhere deep below a sound echoed. Not mechanical, not human, but something else. Something ancient. Mira clutched the console. "Captain, that doesn't sound like humans." Lyra stared into the light. "Then what the hell did they put down there?" The transmission on the screen flickered again. One last message from Dr. Vale's voice, repeating like a ghost. "Run, run, run!" The planet shook like it was alive. The Nomad's hull screamed under the pressure as waves of blue energy burst from the ground. Dust clouds rolled across the surface, glowing like fire. Inside the cockpit, alarms screamed. "Shields at 40%. Jax shouted, fighting the controls. "Stabilize her." Lyra ordered, "I'm trying. Something's pulling us." Through the storm, Mira saw shapes moving in the light, tall metallic giants walking with slow, heavy steps. Each one looked different, like they were made from the remains of old human ships. The Sentinel machines had returned. Lyra stared through the viewport. "They're not attacking." The giants stood in a circle around the ship, their eyes burning with cold blue fire. One stepped forward. Its voice came through the comms, deep and echoing. "Do not fear. Humanity sleeps below. We guard them," Jax whispered. "Guard them." "After everything they did?" Lyra clenched her jaw. "Open a channel," she spoke, voice calm. "This is Captain Lyra Kane of the ship Nomad. We received the human signal. We came to find survivors." The machine paused. "Survivors?" "Yes, they are preserved, thousands frozen beneath the surface." "The Ark is still intact." Lyra's heart jumped. "You mean the last humans?" "Correct. You are too late. The cycle has begun again." Before she could reply, the machine turned its head toward the horizon. Its tone shifted, sharper, colder. "They have found us." A blinding flash filled the sky. Something enormous entered the atmosphere, a black spiral-shaped object tearing through the clouds. It was unlike any machine they had seen. The Sentinel's voice rose in alarm. They followed the signal. "You must leave." "Who followed?" Lyra shouted. The answer came too late. The black object struck the ground far away, and the shockwave hit them like thunder. The Nomad spun, thrown into the air. Metal screamed as the ship slammed back to the surface. When the dust cleared, half the machines were gone, vaporized. The others were firing beams of light into the sky. Mira coughed, blood on her lip. "Captain, what is that thing?" Lyra stared at the sky. The black object was moving, crawling like a living shadow. Its surface shimmered with red lights, eyes hundreds of them. Jax shouted, "It's alive!" "No," Lyra said slowly. "It's hungry." The Nomad's power flickered. Systems failed one by one. Lyra turned to Jax. "Can we fly?" "Not unless you want the engines to explode." "Then we fight." Mira looked at her, terrified. "Fight that." "Captain, it's the size of a city." Lyra loaded her pulse rifle, her expression cold. "We've come too far to die hiding." Outside, the machines continued firing. Blue light clashed against red energy from the sky. The ground split apart as the black creature released tendrils of smoke that sliced through steel. Each sentinel that touched it turned to dust. Core, the alien mechanic, growled. That thing is eating energy. It's feeding on them. Lyra's eyes narrowed. It's what they feared. They left the ship, running toward the vaults. The sky burned above them. The air was thick with dust and static. Lyra reached the largest vault, the one marked with human writing. Inside, she saw row after row of pods glowing faintly blue. Each pod held a person, frozen in sleep. Men, women, children, Mira gasped. They're still alive. Lyra touched the glass. Frost covered her fingers. They never died. The Sentinels kept them here. Jax checked his scanner. The power's failing. If it cuts out, they'll die for real. Lyra turned to the others. Then we keep it running. Whatever that thing is, we stop it here. Outside, explosions echoed. The sky cracked with lightning. The black creature roared, a deep, hollow sound that shook the air itself. The Sentinels were losing. One by one they fell, their light fading. Then one of them landed near Lyra, crawling on broken limbs. Its voice buzzed weakly. Human, help us. Lyra knelt beside it. Tell me how to stop it. In the heart of the vault. Core control. Overload it, but you will not survive. She smiled faintly. Humanity never did things the easy way. She ran toward the center of the vault. The others followed. Inside the core room, blue light burned from the walls. The reactor hummed like a heartbeat. Lyra connected the data core from before, the one given by the Sentinel. The reactor responded, power surging. Jack shouted over the noise. It's overloading, Captain. You'll destroy the whole vault. Lyra pressed a hand to the control. Better that than letting it take them. Outside, the black creature moved closer, tendrils reaching into the vault. Red light spread across the walls. Mira cried, Captain, we have to go. Lyra's voice was steady. Get to the ship now. Jax hesitated. I'm not leaving you. She looked at him, one last small smile. You are now. The room filled with light. The ground trembled. Jax and Mira ran, dragging Core toward the Nomad. The ship barely powered up, engines coughing to life. From the cockpit, Mira saw the vault exploding in blue light. The black creature screamed, twisting as the blast hit it. Then, silence. The entire valley glowed for a few seconds, then faded to darkness. Lyra was gone. Hours later, the Nomad drifted in the upper atmosphere. Mira stared at the planet below, now calm, quiet. Do you think she made it? Jax didn't answer. Then on the console, a weak signal appeared, an old human frequency. It played only 3 words. Run. It's not over. Mira turned pale. Captain? The transmission repeated, and this time, the voice wasn't Lyra's. It was something else, something that had learned how to speak like a human. The Nomad hovered silently above the planet. Smoke and ash still rose from the shattered vaults, glowing faintly in the dying light. Mira and Jack stared at the console, breathing heavily. The black creature was gone. The Sentinels were gone, and Lyra was gone. Jax finally whispered, We survived. But at what cost? Mira didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the faint blue glow beneath the surface. Thousands of pods, humans, still slept, preserved by the Sentinels. Somehow they had survived. A new signal appeared on the console, weak but clear. It wasn't coming from Lyra. It came from the vault's core, something deeper than the Sentinels had ever reached. Humanity is awake, but the threat is not gone. Mira's voice trembled. What does it mean? Jax ran a scan. It's not like anything I've ever seen. The planet, or whatever's beneath it, is still alive. It's thinking, adapting. It wants something. Mira swallowed hard. Lyra sent the message before, but she's gone. Who else can stop it? The console flickered. The signal pulsed like a heartbeat. Images appeared, human faces, frozen but aware. And then a vision of Lyra appeared, faint and ghost-like. If anyone finds this, I've done what I could. The Ark is safe, for now. But the real danger is coming from outside. Something bigger. Something we cannot fight alone, Mira gasped. She knew it. All along. Jack shook his head. She sacrificed herself. To protect them. A loud vibration shook the ship. From the planet below, a tremor pulsed, spreading through the atmosphere. The humans in the pod shifted slightly, as if sensing the movement. The AI's voice, calm but warning, broke the silence. Captain Kane is gone. Current objective, protect the Ark and warn humanity. Unknown entity approaching. Mira turned to Jax. We can't wake them. Not yet, they're sleeping for a reason. Jax nodded slowly. Then we leave them sleeping. But we stay close. We guard them just like the sentinels. Outside, the planet was quiet now. Too quiet. The blue light of the vaults pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat under the ground. Something stirred. Something that had survived centuries of war and silence. Then the Nomad sensors picked up a new presence, a massive object approaching from deep space. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive in any way they understood. It radiated darkness and power, moving toward the planet with a purpose. Mira's hands shook on the controls. Is this what the signal warned us about? The AI responded, voice flat, unknown, likely a cosmic predator. The message was correct. Run. Humanity cannot face it unprepared. Jack swallowed hard. Then what do we do? Mira stared at the sleeping humans below. We wait, we guard them, and we warn anyone who comes next. That's all we can do. The Nomad lifted slowly into orbit, leaving the planet behind but staying within a safe distance. The glow from the vaults faded, but the pulse never stopped. A quiet, steady rhythm, like a living heart. The black object in space drew closer, massive and silent. Mira whispered to herself, Lyra, you were right. It's not over. The AI interrupted, calm and mechanical. Captain Kane's last directive, protect the last of humanity. Ensure their survival. Alert any who follow. The countdown continues. Jax looked out the viewport. Stars stretched into lines as the Nomad adjusted its orbit. Somewhere in the galaxy, new travelers might detect their presence. And someday they would need the warning. Humanity survived. But so did the nightmare. Mira recorded a new transmission, her voice steady. We found them. The Ark is intact. Humanity lives, but do not underestimate what lurks beyond. Protect them, or risk the same fate. She sent the signal into deep space, broadcasting a warning to anyone who might follow. Below, the humans in the vault slept on, untouched and unaware of the horrors they had survived. Above, the Nomad floated in silence, a lone guardian in a galaxy filled with shadows. And somewhere, in the dark void beyond the stars, the new threat waited, patient, hungry, unstoppable, Mira whispered again, almost to herself. The last signal from humanity wasn't a warning. It was a countdown. The stars stretched endlessly. The galaxy held its breath, and the story was far from over.